Welcome to another episode of Stockport Grammar School Talks Sport. We've got an exciting guest today. We've got a guest who's had a journey through education in the educational setting, but he's gone through all the way to the professional football setting and shaping young people's lives and having massive impacts on people's lives. So welcome to Stockport Grammar School, Simon. How are you doing?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It means an awful lot, and great to see you. And love some of the work you're doing, Danny. It looks like a place where there's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of atmosphere, and more importantly, there's a lot of passionate people like yourself. So thanks very much for the invite. Really appreciate it.
No problem at all. So first question, we'll get straight into it, is what's your journey been, Simon, to get to where you are today at Derby County Football Club?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it's not too dissimilar from your own, to be honest with you. I mean, from the northeast originally, sort of, junior school, which was, and it's funny how sort of foundations grow. A junior school, which was just sport mad when I was a young kid. They had a swimming pool in a junior school, which in the '60s was unheard of, and teachers that were just really passionate about what they did, and it sort of just got in even from that young age. It just got me into sport. Obviously, went on to secondary school and played in the majority of teams, that kind of stuff, and really knew that I wanted to do something with sport. I'll be honest with you, at 17, 18, I wasn't sure what that looked like. At that time, I just knew I needed to continue in sport. Wasn't really an academic particularly, but I had loads of enthusiasm, loads of passion. Went to PE college, and that's really where the sort of, the foundations of my journey began. Because I remember in my first year doing teaching practice in a junior school, and I didn't want to do junior, but I just straight away sort of giving something to kids. I knew that this was it. It was that classic light bulb moment. We all get. And obviously during that time, that's when you do all your badges and your coaching qualifications. But I was really excited to get out and sort of practice what you preach. I was a frustrated sportsman because I was never really good enough at the elite level. I played county sports in sort of 4 or 5, the classic sort of jack of all trades, master of none, really. You know what I mean? And then sort of went out in the big bad world at teaching and taught in 3 schools, very different schools, sort of inner cities. But then the last one was a comprehensive school just on the outskirts of Derby, which I absolutely loved. And, fantastic school, fantastic staff, and lucky enough to get a few promotions there. And I stayed there for 25 years in that school. Did a bit of work while I was there. I got asked to do some work with Loughborough University on their PGCE program. So give me the opportunity to get around other schools and see how other schools and other teachers and, other people did things. Because, I want the best, I want the worst, but it was good to learn and sort of share practice with other people. Managed to also, during that time, was asked by Derbyshire Institute of Sport to sit on their gifted and talented athlete panel, whereby we awarded bursaries really for sort of athletes to give them a bump up, which was fantastic again because it would give me the sort of the opportunity to see the elite sport at that level. I'd worked in schools and grassroots and coach clubs and rugby clubs and football clubs and cricket clubs, all that kind of thing, but it hadn't been at the elite level, so that gave me the insight. And then it was a strange one, to be honest with you, because I was just starting to think I need to do something else before I was 52, and I need to do something else before the old retirement sort of comes on the scene. But I was in Ireland on a rugby tour, taking 3 teams out there, and it was a nightmare. We hadn't played a game because it absolutely chucked it down in Ireland. I'd had a horrific injury with a boy, young lad, and I'll never forget it, to be honest with you. Had to have his parents airlifted. He was airlifted to the hospital. Parents, one of them PE days, Danny, Yeah. And I got back to the youth hostel sort of late at night, and I had a phone call, and I didn't recognise the call anyway. I picked the phone up, and he's like, "That's Darren Wassley, Academy Manager at Derby County. Would you be interested?" And I slammed the phone down. I thought it was a wind-up. And then he rang back. He went, "Don't put the phone down. Don't put the phone down." Sort of, and the rest is history, as I said. So it was one a funny one because it took me a little bit of time to shake my comfort blanket off. I'd been sort of almost institutionalized into education, and then sort of got this, and I was very flattered. And I was quite surprised, to be honest with you. We knew each other, but didn't really know each other. Anyway, cut long story short, I took the plunge, and it's the best thing that's ever happened. I mean, I was 52 to get that opportunity at 52. I'm 60 now. It's just been a breath of fresh air, and it's like it's given me a new life, to be honest with you. You know, it's been superb. It really, really has. So here I am in a Cat 1 academy, surrounded by great stuff. And the best thing I can say is every day I get into my car and then it doesn't feel as though I'm going to work.
Yeah, that's the dream. That's the dream, isn't it?
So no, happy days, really happy days. And listen, I guess a lot of it, you know, and you're the same, I'm sure. A lot of it's down to a bit of luck. You know, you work hard and you do what you're doing, but obviously that, you know, I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, but Jack Nicklaus used to say, didn't he? So the harder I work, the luckier I got, and you know, I got this, and people, you could see people thinking, how's he managed to get this gig? And I used to pinching my forearms every night, black and blue, for the first 2 months. So here I am.
Oh, really good. And then in terms of that role as head of education at Derby, what does that involve?
Yeah, I mean, it's multifaceted, really. I mean, primarily, look, the bottom line is I'm looking after a lot of lads who have a dream, and I'm looking after lads just like you're looking after, you know, boys and girls at your school, and you're making sure that I support them, you know, through all sorts of different ways, through academic qualifications, through lifestyle programs, lifestyle development. But most importantly, I'm providing somebody really, which I'm not on the grass with them anymore. You know, my days on the grass are over, but I'm trying to give them a voice, trying to give them an opportunity to when they are struggling, they can come and talk to me. And I guess, listen, the main part of my role as education is that I've got to make sure that all the apprentices 16 to 18, I manage their education framework. And it looks like this, you know, they will all do, most of them will do a BTEC, which is either a diploma or an extended diploma. I've got 2 lads doing A-levels this year in Spanish and economics. So, you know, making sure that there's a progressive education pathway depending on what they got for their GCSEs, just like you would do as you were going into a sixth form. And so that's one part. They do what's called an apprenticeship standard now, which basically is a sort of an evidence log of their elite program. So they keep evidence, and you know, the thinking behind is that these boys become informed at the same time they are footballers. So listen, they're not all going to play professional football, but you know, come the day that they have to leave it, they've had an absolutely unbelievable experience with expert staff and fantastic facilities. So it'll give them something else later on in their life, you know. So you know what it's like: football, injury, retention, loss of form, loss of contracts. They need a dual career, and that's becoming a really, really big part of my role, to make sure that they have that dual career. Obviously the schoolboys, and I think we communicated this a long time ago when you were in a previous school, is maintaining an academic sort of profile with the schoolboys to make sure that when they come out on a day release program, they're doing it, you know, for the right reasons. The school are happy with it, the boys are happy with it, the families are happy with it, and making sure that, you know, that they understand what it means, having them time management skills and all the rest of it. So it's fundamentally, you know, develop a really positive relationship with the lads, but also overseeing an education program, which is a key responsibility. Develop relations with families as well, you know, because I always think the better you know the boy and his circumstances and the family, the more impact you're going to have, to be honest with you. And then the last one, really, and I don't mean this in sort of, you know, any hierarchical sort of, but being a mentor for the other staff, you know. And I'm an old cod, you know, I'm 60, but there's a lot of young staff and young coaches that I'd like to think my skill set over sort of 30 years of teaching is going to be of value to somebody, and you know, be there for people, because I know what it was like when I was forging my career. I needed mentors around me, and hopefully, you know, that's a big part of what I do.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then in terms, obviously, you're working with a lot of high performance coaches and people and players. And how would you describe what high performance is?
I think this is a great question. I think a really, really good question. And I think it's creating an environment whereby you have expertise, but also, you know, expertise in terms of the staff that you've got and the facilities you've got. But fundamentally, it is about the people that are delivering those messages. And I think what we're trying to do, particularly at Derby, is what we're trying to do is give the boys the platform, give the players the platform. But at the same time, what we've got to do is give that independent sort of creative thinking skills, whereby we can put everything on a plate, but they've got to come and grasp it. You know, we want them to make the decision. Sometimes they won't be the right decision; they'll make mistakes. But you know, failure is part of a high performance sort of scenario. So it's creating that environment, but giving them the skill set and giving them, the opportunity where you're surrounded by. And listen, I've learned so much in the 8-9 years I've been there, and I'm in awe sometimes of the staff, in sports science and coaching. They are unbelievably talented and knowledgeable about what they do. But then I guess it's coming together as a multidisciplinary staff. They've got a skill set I haven't got, but I'm sure they'll look at me and say, he's got a skill set that we haven't got. So the player is in the center of that sort of, that Venn diagram, if you like, and where all the support networks around him. And the joy is to see the way that all the different departments really, really, really switch on to that player in the middle, and we all have a part to play in that that wheel. And I guess that's it for me in terms of high performance. That sort of shared belief of us all of staff in terms of what we're there for, and the bits that we can bring to that player or that person.
And in terms of high performance, I believe there's a culture that helps that. And what's the culture like at Derby County, and what does culture mean there?
Yeah, you know what? Again, and I'll chuck the question back to you for a minute, and you will have visited hundreds and hundreds of schools, I'm sure, in your career. Yeah. When you get to a school gate or a school reception area, within the first 2 minutes, you can pick up what that place is like, can't you? You get a buzz. How the receptionist welcomes you. What do the corridors look like? Is there artwork around? Is it? And similarly, the first time I went into the club, for a chat about this role, I sort of walked in and I was like, wow, what? I just kind of got it. It was like something in the pit of my stomach. And listen, that doesn't happen overnight. That's got to be created. And I think I sent you something which our mantra, it's very, very simple mantra. And I'm not one for all Americanisms all around the corridors with sort of slogans that don't mean anything, because I believe that you've got to live what you've got to live it. And we have a simple one called talent alone is not enough. And that is not just for the players, that's for the staff as well. As that, look, I'm fortunate to get there, but I'm never, ever complacent enough to think, well, that's it for life. Because, I've got to perform at a level which is, not obviously Derby County standards, but to my own standards. So I think it's creating again. I think the academy manager Darren Wassell's done an unbelievable job. And I think over a period of time, he had a vision, he had a passion and a philosophy of what he wanted to create. And I think he's gone out and he's recruited staff who were on the same page. So we have a shared. You talk about culture. We've got a shared vision, but we're honest, we're transparent. We win together, we lose together. And I think, that's it. And you can never stop with it. You've got to keep plugging away at it all the time, and sometimes if the lads or certain staff fall below those sort of that culture, then you've got to remind them of it. I always remember when I started teaching, my old man said to me, he said, make sure you talk to the caretaker and the cleaner and the kitchen staff the same way as you speak to your head teacher. And it's something that stuck with me all through my life. Do you know what I mean? And that's it in a nutshell. That's a culture for me in terms of treating others that how you want to be treated.
No, you're right. It's so big about people, isn't it? And for me,
absolutely.
It's about you being the best version of yourself every day if you can. And obviously, you're not going to do it every day, but being an 8 out of 10 if you can every day, and treating people like people. And I think that's what it comes down to.
And listen, listen to people. Sometimes the best advice is just to sit there and listen for half an hour. And if somebody wants to come and talk, then just listen to them, because they're obviously desperate for that voice and that platform, aren't they?
Yeah, no. Somebody said to me the other day. Actually, said the art is being not interesting, but be interested. In others, and you do that, and that's really.
I'll blow your trumpet here a little bit, because listen, the way we connected through LinkedIn and what have you, and you've gone obviously very proactively to sort of develop and sort of seek out. And I just sent you, I said, hey, come on, we'll have a chat. I've never met you in a million years, but then you took the time out of your day, I took the time out of my day, and we just had a 15-minute conversation, sort of over FaceTime. And there was a kindred spirit between, you're a younger version of me that's got, personality, and you love teaching. And I think you'll end up as something like this, So people are fascinating, I tell you. People are fascinating.
Oh, that's brilliant. And going on to another thing, obviously there's been highs and lows on athletes' journeys, and in your role, how do you help manage those athletes' lows?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating one, and again, I'm privileged, you see, because I get to know all the boys when they start at 9, and I get to know the families as much as I possibly can. The hybrid program, in terms of the day release, starts at 12, so we've got access to them from 12, and they do quite an extensive day, and we really go way beyond to get to know them inside out. And I think what I mean by, you'll see where I come to with the highs and lows. It's educating early in terms of not focusing purely on the destination, but enjoy the journey that they're on, right? And listen, being honest and transparent with parents and the boys, said, this is the journey on. You're on the biggest roller coaster in the world, it's football. And enjoy the highs and enjoy the cups and the trophies and visits abroad and all the rest of it. But, sort of, there are going to be times whether it's either loss of form or not in the team. And I think what I try to do in that is make sure that I'm transparent with the journey, but also make sure there are no surprises, And I think the best day and the worst day in this job, it's a bit like when, the best day and the worst day in teaching is when you come on an exams day and you see the kids that have done worked hard really well, and they've got what they deserve, and they're jumping down the corridor and hugging each other. It's the best day ever, isn't it, in teaching? But then there's always one or two kids sitting in the corner crying their eyes out because they haven't got what they, and you feel for them, well, the way it happens, in football is, and I sit on all the retain and release readings. So the best bit is when you're giving a kid a contract, that's either apprenticeship or a professional contract, and the families are there and the prize punch. But then similarly, it's hard, when you're actually sort of sitting down with a young man and sort of saying, I'm sorry, there's nothing here for you. And I think a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, it was quite brutal the way it was done. We've worked really hard to make sure that that isn't the case. And so I guess the boy will know that that's coming, and if we're doing it right, but then kicking in straight away with the support mechanisms around the release sort of program, the release sort of situation. Straight away. Now we now have a player care manager. He kicks in. He's in the interview. The next day, there's a phone call. The following day, give him a bit of time to sort of let the dust settle. But then, right, other clubs, other pathways. It might be university. It might be retraining. So, and again, that's down to, I think that's down to relationships, forming honest relationships, making sure you trust the players, but also making sure that the players and the families trust you.
Yeah.
And listen, I could talk about, we have a psychologist, a club psychologist, and there's lots of workshops around mental toughness and resilience and all the rest of it. But, these are young kids, and with all that sort of training in the world, it's hard, isn't it, when somebody's shattering your dream, Danny, we've all been there, haven't we?
We have indeed, yeah. So it's good. And in terms of a little bit more about personally on you, what's your biggest setback been on your journey, and what did you do to overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, when I saw you this question, it's two strands for me. I think there's a personal one and a professional one. Personally, I lost my father when I was just sort of really kicking off in my teaching career. He died suddenly. He was a music teacher, and he was just a brilliant musician, just full of enthusiasm. And hey, look, he's my dad. I worshipped him, and he was actually playing five-a-side football when he died, right? And I thought, well, if you're going to go, what a way to go! Like, it was either going to be at the piano or playing sport, And he'd beaten me around the tennis court and the badminton court for years and years. So losing him at a time where I was 26 when he tragically died, and I used to use him a lot. I used to ring him, throughout to teaching because he'd been a teacher, but he was a good guy. He was my dad, and I used to speak to him a lot about, And I have a simple sort of scenario now in my head when I have conflict situations at work, or there's a challenge with a player, or I put my dad hat on. Right, and I know it's a bit, and it's become a bit of a thing in the academy now. They all go, "Oh, he's got his dad hat on," because I'll go, "Well, would this be all right for my son or my daughter?" Right, and if it is, then it's fine. If it's not, then we shouldn't be doing it. And hey, look, call me what you want, but it kind of works for me, And it's nice to see that some of the other staff have adapted it, And then professionally, I suppose the probably the biggest disappointment. I've been at the second school for 25 years. After about 20 years, I applied for assistant headship, and whether or not It was my own ego or whatever. I expected to get it. There was only internal candidates. I thought I was nailed on. And I'd done my own work and I'd sort of had a good interview and all of it. And hey, look, long story short, I didn't get it. But what they'd done is they'd promoted somebody who had been teaching 3 years, and I don't know what, for whatever reason, it was that but I was devastated. I was angry, and it made me think, right, okay, come on, you can't just sit in your laurels here. I love the school and all the rest of it, but I was angry and really sort of annoyed. But then, you know what? 3 months down the line, I thought it's probably the best thing I'd set around, because it sort of gave me the kick up the backside I needed a little bit. Not that I'd got lazy or complacent in my job, but I just sort of think, look, there's more to life out there. And then, funnily enough, it was only about 3 months later that I got the phone call out of the blue. So things happen for a reason, because I think if I'd got that, I probably would have still been there. I wouldn't have had this opportunity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. One door closes, one door opens.
And so it was, although it was a disappointment, and it was at the time, it gave me the drive to really move on and do something else.
Yeah, that's good. And then on the flip side, obviously, you had lots of accomplishments in your personal and professional life. Which one stands out to you that you're most proud of, and why?
I've got 2 kids. They're a source of, I've been with pride when I see them. They're both, Jack's 28, Phoebe's 26. Jack works for a charity, travels all around the world doing sort of, great things for people that really need the help. And I'm in awe, of my own son, to be honest with you, and my daughter's doing really, really well. So they're, and I'd get shot here if I didn't sort of say Bev as well, my wife, because, she's, she's my rock, and she's enabled me to do sort of some of the others, because I've never been in the house. It's probably kept my marriage alive, me being out of the house so much. You know what sports like. So that, without a shadow of a doubt. I also, when I was teaching, I was involved in a local rugby club. The school, we did a lot of rugby at the school, and there was an old caretaker's bungalow which was lying dormant for a while. I said to them, "What are you doing with that caretaker's bungalow? We can use that." Anyway, we had 35 kids in the club in 2000, just after the World Cup. A year later, through a lot of work from not just me, but a lot of people, that became a clubhouse. We went to 250 kids in a year from 35. And what it became a fulcrum of the community in which I lived. And, undoubtedly now, I've left teaching 9 years, but I see kids and families that were sort of part of that journey, which, I never have to buy a drink. It's great, so there's all. So that was a massive, massive accomplishment, without a doubt. And then sort of coming into Derby, 2 of the lads during this time, Mason Bennett was 1 in 2013, and then Max Bird last 2 years ago. We put an application, which is a mass part of that. They've become Apprentice of the Year for the whole of the Football League. And so that's 2 of them, during your tenure. Now, it's not just me. I was just the person that sort of put the report together. But being able to see them on a stage at that sort of, it brought, I'm a big softy, mate. It brought a tear to my eye and a lump in my throat, thinking in some way you might have had a little part of it. But no, unbelievable. And, every day, particularly at Derby now, it's great. You see the lads that you've worked with for 5, 6 years, and when they get in that first team environment, wow, it's unbelievable. It's worth thousands of pounds. I'm never going to be a millionaire, but I'm much richer in other ways.
And in terms of role models, have you had anyone who's stood out and influenced you in your life, and why?
Yeah, without doubt. Listen, I think if my father would have lived longer, he'll always will be a role model to me. But the second head I worked for, Harold Thomas, and you talked to me before about having trust and belief. I was the youngest head of department in the county, and I remember I'd only been at the school a year or so, and my head of department, who was a professional, he went to play professional rugby, and I didn't think I was ready for it at the time to apply. Anyway, I'll never forget the day of the interviews. These guys came in, and none of them got the job. The very next day, he pulled me in. He said, "Why didn't you apply for that job?" He said, "You're better than those candidates I interviewed yesterday. I'm going to give you the job for 6 months." And of course, he just gave me that belief, right? And he sort of gave me a bit of trust, and and to this day, I mean, he must be 80 odd now. This Harold Thomas. He sends me and Bev and Jack and Phoebe a letter and a Christmas card every Christmas describing what he's doing. I mean, I think it's just like, it's madness, that he's taken that personal investment in me and my family is just Well, it's very rare in this day and age. And he, you know, I always said you chop his arms off, and he would. The school colour was green. He would have bled green blood, you know. And to still think that he sort of, and I ring him not loads, you know, sort of once a year, and it's as though I'd met him yesterday, and I'm thinking 80-odd-year-old, you know, he sings in a choir, and he's an unbelievable human being, and a fantastic manager of people, and he's definitely a huge role model for me.
What are your 3 non-negotiable behaviours that you'd expect from yourself and anybody else you come into contact with?
Right. Honesty, integrity. Right. Be honest. And, you know, integrity, I always say to the boys, is make sure that you do, you know, even when the cameras aren't on you, when there's nobody watching, make sure you do the right thing. Right. So honesty, integrity are huge ones for me. Right. Is and I will give them everything of me, as long as, you know, they're upfront and honest and integral. Punctuality, I'm a big one for punctuality. And I say to the boys, if we've got a meeting at 10, if you're there at 5:02, you're 5 minutes late, you know. So, and I don't know if that's us all PE guys or whatever, but you know, it's huge for me. And what it shows is, I think it just shows a bit of respect, and you know, so that's a massive one. And then, I mean, it's a bit like what I said before about you know, speaking to the caretaker the same way with the head teacher. I think having that mutual respect. I think you know that's a massive one for me. So they're the things, you know, treating others how you want to be treated yourself, punctuality, and that honest, and I've said 4 there, I know, but honesty and integrity, huge.
If you could go back to school, Simon, maybe at Stockport Grammar School as a 12-year-old boy, what advice would you give yourself, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, be honest to yourself. Be honest to yourself, and you know, I use a poem, and the lads battered me when I first used it, but they kind of get it now. It's a poem by Dale Wimbrough called "The Man in the Glass." I don't know if you've ever read it. If you not, have a look at it. "Man in the Glass" by Dale Wimbrough, and basically what it talks about is cheating yourself. You know, if you don't put a shift in, and this has got nothing to do with football. It's about, you know, life in general. At the end of the week, look at the mirror and just sort of say, right, have I done what I could? So I could talk about smart targets and all that, and the kids will go, yeah. But look at yourself in the mirror every day, right, and check yourself, and have that kind of self-reflection. I did it. I've done a bit of work over the summer with Joe Thomson. You know, the cancer sufferer who used to play for Rochdale. And he's become a bit of an inspiration to me. And he talks about, he said, there's a lot of people who have public success but private failure. And I thought, wow, I like that. I know exactly what it means. Yeah, we put on this bravado, and you know, particularly with social media, it's massive, isn't it? You know, so being honest to yourself, and just the Man in the Glass, Dale Wimbrough, love it.